Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Blake? What? Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Now that should be a little better. Good. Guess what, guys? We're going to start the entire thing over again. Okay, so pretend like that didn't happen. And now here we go. Aaron is right here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day's a great day not to be in a cult. Okay, I am going to remember to introduce my lovely co-host tonight, because I always forget to introduce her at the beginning. This is Jenna Miscavige, everybody. And you can find Jenna Miscavige's channel right here, where you can see all of her wonderful videos and everything that she likes to talk about over there. But tonight we're on this channel, and we are here to talk about new lawsuits against David Miscavige and Scientology. It is a very bad time to be an angry, evil little dictator. It's a very bad time to be a cult leader. It's a very bad time to be David Miscavige, partially because of the law firm Andrews and Thornton. And here is their website. It is andrewsthornton.com. I'll put a link to it in the video description and the pinned comment. Managing partner is Ann Andrews, and associate attorney is, I believe the right word, is Kimberly DeGonia. And they have a contact page on the website. Instead of giving out Kimberly's email address, I do believe they would rather people contact them through the contact form on their website. Andrews and Thornton is the specialist expertise law firm that is has gone up and is going up against organizations and religious groups much bigger, much wealthier, and much more powerful than Scientology. And Andrews and Thornton is the law firm that basically says to all the ex-Scientologists out there, we see you guys and we are open for business, and we want to represent you and we want to hear your stories. So one of the reasons we wanted to jump on here and do a chat about this is, one, to encourage every ex-Scientologist in the United States. And I only say in the United States because to me that's what makes sense, but who knows, I could be wrong. Who believes they have an experience that is actionable, legally actionable. We're going to talk about a little bit, perhaps some things that might rise to the top of actionable items. But if you are an ex-Scientologist in the United States and you believe you have something that is legally actionable and you're not sure if it's within the statute of limitations or not, the best way to find out is to ask the experts. And the experts are Kimberly DeGonia and Ann Andrews over at Andrews Thornton. So one was to encourage people to contact this law firm, because this is the law firm that I believe will ultimately be the downfall of Scientology, depending on how you want to define that. I believe it is this firm that will bring lawsuits that will result in hundreds of millions of dollars of judgments against Scientology. If not billions. I don't know. Does that bring down the Church of Scientology or not? I don't even care. It sure as hell is at least going to do a hell of a lot of damage. Okay, so up until, I don't know, I would say up until the present day, I feel like almost everything anyone says happened to them in Scientology, someone will say that's past the statute of limitations. And I think a lot of Scientologists don't even understand that some of the things that happened to them or they experienced are illegal and actionable.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
And one of the things that you were told when you spoke with someone from the firm was that, well, you were talking about stuff that happened in California that you would have guessed was past the statute of limitations. And you were told, well, since it's California, it's not.
Right. That's correct. Yeah.
Right. So just because you might think something seems to be clearly beyond the statute of limitations, please do not assume that it is. You were also told that if something involves crossing state lines, then it becomes a federal issue. And under the federal statutes, depending on which statutes we're talking about specifically, there are no statutes of limitations.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, speaking for myself here quickly, because I have not yet spoken to anyone at this firm. I have said in the past, I'm not interested in suing Scientology. I wouldn't, like, why would I want that headache? I don't want that trouble. I feel like I already have I can already have my greatest impact against Scientology just in the court of public opinion, right? But I'll tell you, there was something that happened to me. It was physical abuse. I mean, it was straight up child abuse. I mean, I was punched in the head and knocked unconscious right in the reception area of the Philadelphia org as a 15-year-old child. Okay. The fact that my Scientology experience working for that organization was being sent from Pennsylvania as a child to Florida as a child, back to Pennsylvania as a child, then back to Florida as a child, and then back to Pennsylvania. And that the physical abuse, I actually got in trouble for having been assaulted. It came up when I was sent back to Clearwater. So the Clearwater Scientology authorities were perfectly aware of this child abuse. You know, there's all sorts of things about this incident that I would honestly have just assumed, oh, that's got to be, some kid getting punched in the head by an adult, got to be past the statute of limitations. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. This is crossing state lines. This is child abuse. This is labor trafficking mixed in with child abuse. I'm just telling everybody, if I speak to Andrews and Thornton and they say, this is a case, we think we should bring it, we think we can be successful, we want to file, I'm going to file. Right. I'm not afraid of filing. I'm just not going to go. I've just always said, that's not my form of activism. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way to go hunt around for a lawyer willing to represent me in a case against Scientology. It's just never been something that interested me. Right. Mm-hmm. But I trust this firm. They are the experts in this subject. I mean, especially going after religious organizations for using their religious status to justify these abuses and the cover up of these abuses. Mm-hmm. If these guys say go, I'm going to go. And I hope a lot of other people will do the same and contact Andrews and Thornton and tell them your stories and let them be the arbiter of what will or will not go forward, depending on what they think is best. What are some thoughts you have about this?
Yeah, I was also told very early on that a lot of things that happened to me as a kid in Scientology were okay because Scientology is a religion. And that's not necessarily true. So I think that the importance of getting this information from an actual lawyer who actually knows, who has dealt with similar cases, is invaluable. Not having somebody who is not a lawyer interpret that for you or just give you their opinion on how Scientology gets away with it. Because people thinking Scientology gets away with everything kind of contributes to them continuing to get away with everything. At least that's the case for me. I think also another thought I had on it before, you were saying this is a way to bring down Scientology, or you said you don't know if this is really going to bring down Scientology or it's just a part of it. But there's also the part of it that's like just bringing justice to Scientology for the things that it did, whether or not that brings them down, just having them suffer some of the consequences of that and having some of the things that they did made right to the people who they did them to is a big deal. You know, even just people seeing that that's possible, and Scientology knowing that they, like, if they do this thing, then they will not be able to get away with it, I think is like just a big part. So even if a case doesn't bring down Scientology, it will make them think twice. Even just suing them, you know, will make them think twice, in my opinion. Sorry, another thing that I was thinking of when you were talking is that there are many things that I did not realize when I came out of Scientology. I did not realize that they were illegal. I didn't like them. Like, I felt like they were really harmful and abusive towards me. But I thought that that was just a feeling that I had. And because all I grew up with was Scientology, like, I had nothing to compare it to. So after many years of experience with my own kids and, you know, finally being able to think about some of these things, many of the things that were just so normal for us are actually child abuse. Like, just being brought into a room where you're with another adult, your parents are not present. You know, they ask you even to like undo your pants sometimes because of the e-meter. And they don't do that for a sexual reason. But when I think of my child being brought into a room and asked to unsnap their bra or undo their pants, and this is for like, you know, so that the electrical flow from the e-meter is like unimpeded, but it's still like that. I would not be comfortable in any way with my daughter being asked to do that without me being in the room, being, you know, thousands of miles away from me, like,
with a strange grown man behind a locked door.
exactly.
Like, it's crazy when you describe this in regular worlds as no longer being in Scientology, and you realize it does have regular worlds or words.
Oh, regular worlds. I think that's what you meant.
In regular words,
Yeah.
in the regular world. And you're like, this sounds really bad.
That's right. Yes, exactly. But it sounds so normal to me. Like, but you, like, it's almost like you don't know until you say it to somebody and they're like, wait, huh? What? And then they're asking you questions and they're asking you what you're hiding. And often this gets into questions of a sexual nature. Like, it's almost like their go-to, especially if you're a staff member. It's also being recorded and written down. I mean, as a child, this is a form of child P. Recording it, writing it down, that information, sending it to other authorities. So these are just things that like we think of as no big deal because there wasn't like, you know, they weren't actually like physically assaulting you at that time, but they're actually hugely problematic, child abuse at the least. And it is SA. And just so many other things, like just being forced to stay up all night as a child. I want to do a video on this separately, but just so many of the things that went on, I didn't actually know even until recently, until I've been thinking about it now, which is why statutes often last so long, is because when you're so indoctrinated into this, you don't realize it until way later. I mean, even things that happened that were actually like SA, I did not even realize that that's what it was. Like, I was looking at it through a completely different lens, and I didn't even realize this until a year ago. And that's, you know, that's what that indoctrination does to you. And unless you have something else to compare it to, you have no way of knowing. That's the only life you've led.
Yeah. You know, that Scientology indoctrination, that there's no such thing as a child, and that, you know, I mean, by the time I finished my training at Flag, I was 15. Mm-hmm. I certainly considered myself an adult.
Right.
And so, you know, I go back to Philly. I'm not thinking of myself as a child.
Right.
And, you know, even having, you know, there was basically a student who was in the course room and he was getting upset at a drill he was trying to do, and he was getting really frustrated. And so he blew the course room, which means you leave without permission. And he was trying to walk out of the org. And I wasn't trying to physically restrain him or anything. Mm-hmm. I was just trying to like walk with him and find out what was going on. But he like just exploded and just when we got into reception, he just punched me right in the head and knocked me out. Now, the reason that I almost even forget that this happens sometimes.
But he was punching you over and over and over again.
I think
right?
so. I think I went unconscious after the first one. But
Yeah.
when I woke up, he was still on top of me.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm 15. I'm not in school. My mother's in another state. I'm working 100+ hours a week. I'm a child being trafficked for labor without a legal guardian and being physically assaulted.
That's right.
And then guess what? I got in trouble for it.
He got a court of ethics.
Yeah.
Which is a Scientology justice procedure where people there look at all the evidence of what you did wrong and then they basically vote for what your punishment should be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
And so then I went back to Flag after that, back to Florida, and then back to Philly. I mean, all under the age of 18. I mean, all during the years when I should have been in school.
Mm-hmm.
I should have actually been in school.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And I forget what you were saying when I jumped in, or did you finish?
No, it's okay. It's like, we're just talking about how like sometimes like it takes a while to realize this. Like you're only comparing it to your own experience. And you still think of yourself like retroactively as an adult. I have that too.
Yeah.
Like I have, because that's all I was ever told. That's all I grew up with. And so I have to like forcibly replace myself with my kids in my images in order to see it in a way that's proper.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that because there's so many things like that. There's so many, whether it's like being forced to like, even on TR0 bull bait, which is a communication drill that we would do in Scientology. Like I remember me and my friend, like adults would ruthlessly bull bait her, but he would like point out things about her, like her boobs and things like that. When she was like, and there was this one supervisor who was like, amazing at doing this. He could break anybody, but we were like 13 years old. It's disgusting.
I mean, I think every Scientology staff member in the world from that time has seen Vittorio Orlando sexually abuse children in the name of bull baiting.
Exactly. Yeah. And
when I say sexually abuse, I'm not talking about rape. I'm not. Actually, sometimes there would be some touch, but not maybe sexual touching.
Yeah, right.
But it is still sexual abuse.
It absolutely is. And it's also being heard by the entire rest of the classroom.
Yeah. Maybe in front of 100 people all doing their own drills, but everybody can hear what's happening there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And not only that, I know this isn't it kind of is the intention of it, but it almost makes you learn to not react appropriately to what would be sexual abuse. Like you learn to sort of like dissociate or just like almost normalize it, but because that's what's happening to everyone else in the room. You're no exception. And there's just so many little things like that, in that same classroom, we would be being taught like to get someone to follow a command, an auditing command, and where if they don't do it, they get physically dragged from one wall to another, to forced to touch the wall. And I was trained to do that. And when I was trained to do that, I also was trained that, that's what my auditor is going to do to me if I ever try to leave an auditing session.
Right. And
so as a kid, I was always thinking, poor auditor, they'll be in trouble if I try to leave and I can't do that and so on.
Right.
But like that's just how they trap you and normalize those sort of things. And you just don't think of them as abusive at the time. At the time when I was trying to get out of auditing sessions constantly, I thought and was told repeatedly by the executives involved how horrible I was for doing that. Even people who were my guardian at the time. And it's just, it takes years for those to look at it differently. And so I want to do a series of videos just on things like that, just because I feel like sometimes it's easier for people to be like, oh yeah, it was all okay. It wasn't that bad, because you kind of have to sometimes think that way in order to get on with life, in order to like not dwell on it. But I think that there's just so much that I have been able to look at differently, even recently, so much that I've realized. And I just want to make sure that other people, I don't know, they have a chance to talk about that too and think about it. And if they, yeah, because at the time I felt like it was abuse. I felt like disempowered. I felt horrible, but I just didn't know that those things would count in that way.
Right. By the way, I forgot to tell George or Natalie that we needed any help on the back office.
Oh.
So,
Oh, we'll just have to go
George,
through
if you're
ourselves.
out there, you're our only hope, Obi-Wan. Or Natalie. For anyone newly joining the chat, the point here, one of the main message of this is we are encouraging ex-Scientologists to contact the Andrews Thornton law firm. Managing partner Ann Andrews and associate attorney Kimberly DeGonia have done podcasts recently talking about their mass litigation against the Mormon Church currently. I first became aware of Ann and Kimberly in an episode they did on the Mormon Stories podcast. And it was I think it was a 3-hour podcast. And they went into some unbelievably incredible detail about the type of litigation, why it works, how they go about it, how they're able to break through the protections that these religious organizations think that they have, but in reality don't. And everything I heard them talk about, in my mind, I was like, oh my God, that's even more true for Scientology. I hope these guys sink their teeth into Scientology. And that is what they are now doing. So one of the things that Kimberly discussed in the podcast I listened to was the point at which, for an organization, a worldwide organization such as Scientology, the point where sex abuse actually becomes sex trafficking. And I think any ex-Scientologist would be, if they hadn't listened to this podcast, would be like, oh, stop. Scientology doesn't do sex trafficking. Stop. I got news for you. It absolutely does. The closed system that Scientology has created, where members are forbidden from contacting the authorities about sexual abuse, it creates a system where Scientology as an organization benefits financially from not reporting these crimes to the authorities. They benefit financially in terms of not losing members, not losing donations of the members they might have lost. Scientology benefits financially in an even more insidious way, or more disgusting way, which is they charge you a lot of money for the interrogations that you have to get when it's found out you've sexually abused a child. They're literally profiting off of your child's sex crimes. So it's not just profiting by not losing money, it's profiting by actually making money. And by refusing to let members report people to the authorities, by penalizing people for reporting people to the authorities, Scientology continues to, on a go-forward basis, benefit in terms of membership and finance from covering up child sex crimes. And Kimberly explained how that is sex trafficking. Okay, it's not some secret child prostitution ring. This is where child abuse, institutionally protected child abuse, becomes sex trafficking. And this is Scientology's Achilles heel, because we all know one of the highest crimes you can ever commit as a Scientologist is to report another Scientologist to the authorities for any reason whatsoever.
Right.
And that is going to come back to be Scientology's downfall.
Yeah. Not only reporting them, but threatening to report.
Yep.
That was on my committee of evidence when I left Scientology. And it was because I said I was going to call the cops if they took my cell phone. So it's real, like it's in writing and it's actually enforced.
How about this for a crazy idea? Were you just about to say something?
Yeah, but it was kind of a rant. So if you're going to say something,
well, how about this for a crazy idea? Because at this point, there are ex-Scientology executives, so former Scientology executives, who were present and in command during many of these instances where child sex crimes occurred and were subsequently covered up. What would happen? I want you guys' feedback on this in the live chat. Could you imagine if a law firm brought a lawsuit against Scientology for sex trafficking, but also not only named the executives who are still there, but named in the lawsuit the executives who are already out of Scientology?
Right.
And whether that would almost create an extra strange problem for Scientology, where all of a sudden there's a co-defendant who's perfectly willing to admit to all of these things that actually really occurred. I mean, theoretically perfectly willing.
Right.
So you've got one defendant who's not in Scientology anymore, who's going to be like, yeah, this is what occurred. This is how the organization works. This is what happened under my authority. This is what I knew about. This is how it was reported up lines. This is what we were ordered to do about it. This is how we handled it. Standard operating procedure. And then you've got Scientology as a defendant. What are they going to do? Be like, he's lying.
Right.
It's like, no, he worked for you guys.
Right.
Like,
what can they do?
What can they do?
Yeah. Well, it almost doesn't matter what they say, because the other person can be like, yeah, I did it.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, I think it's interesting, because when we were talking about what ex-Scientologists would consider as abuse, or you kind of like downplay the things that happened to you, I think that's one of the really important reasons why you should go to an actual lawyer like this one. Because, and the reason why we got into talking about this, we were talking to each other just privately before this, but in the last few days, Tom Devocht had posted. Tom Devocht is a former Scientology executive, and he has a movement that is called Indict David Miscavige. And in the last few days, he has posted a blog post he has a letter to David Miscavige, and he talks about all of the bad things he's done in Scientology: coercive control, human trafficking, RICO, a bunch of other stuff, but nowhere listed in this is child abuse of any kind, which I find to be hugely problematic. In my opinion, and from my perspective, child abuse and child sex abuse is the worst thing that happens in Scientology. That's just my opinion. Like, other people are entitled to other opinions, but I find it hugely problematic that this person is asking people to give him evidence for lawsuits or court cases that he's trying to bring against David Miscavige, where I personally feel concerned that ex-Scientologists going to that person who doesn't even have child abuse crimes on this list of things that were done. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about what will be done with this evidence. I'm concerned about whether or not that person actually sees these things as wrong, child abuse. And yeah. And so honestly, that's why I think it's a good idea that we're talking about these lawyers, so people actually have someone to go to who does not have, I don't know, their own sort of vested interest or their own involvement in the situation to dissuade people or to decide what parts are important, or like others have done over the years, have said, oh, well, that's not actionable because Scientology is protected as a religion. Actually go to the person who knows about it.
I do wonder about why would a non-attorney be acting as a clearinghouse for actionable information against Scientology? I'm saying this out loud without it being an accusation, because I hesitate to immediately find fault with someone who's trying to do something they think will be valuable in taking down David Miscavige or Scientology. But I do question.
Right, and I also hesitate to do that.
No, I know.
I'm just making it clear. Like, I don't love doing that either. And I always question myself and I feel bad about it. And then I'm like, no, I don't. Like,
Right.
I can't keep putting myself down like I always did in Scientology. This is of concern to me. Otherwise, like, it's nothing against that person. I do not want to say anything bad about him personally. It's actually like of concern to me, and I would feel like I was part of the problem if I didn't mention it.
Totally. And really, I was just saying that in advance of what I was about to say. meaning I hesitate to say what I'm about to say because I don't want to seem like I'm just criticizing someone who is. I do truly believe thinking they're doing something that they think will bring down David Miscavige. But I do question the wisdom of asking people to submit all of their legally actionable information to a non-attorney. Like, Why? Is there an
Right.
attorney involved? I mean,
Right.
maybe all of a sudden they want to raise $100,000. I mean, for what exactly?
Right.
I don't know. I read the explanation for what it is and I still don't know.
Right.
And so I guess what I'm saying is if you have an experience with or about David Miscavige or anything, but because I'm about to talk about the Indict David Miscavige initiative, if you have something that happened to you that involved or concerned David Miscavige and you think that is legally actionable to the point that he could actually be indicted and tried and convicted of a crime, then I absolutely want to encourage you to, at the very least, also contact Andrews and Thornton. And again, managing partner Ann Andrews, associate attorney Kimberly DeGonia, because I'll tell you what, if you think you have evidence that David Miscavige, or if you have something for which David Miscavige can be found guilty unanimously beyond a reasonable doubt, then chances are you may have a civil action where I think it's only preponderance of the evidence, whatever it is. It's a lower standard. It's a lower standard to get a conviction on a civil case. And conviction is not even it's a lower standard to get a guilty verdict on a civil trial than it is to get a guilty verdict. See, I'm using my language all wrong because you can't be found guilty in a civil trial. You're found liable. It's a lower standard of evidence to be found liable in a civil trial than it is to be found guilty in a criminal trial. So if you've got some juice for the Indict David Miscavige initiative, you may have some juice for a civil lawsuit, and you should contact Andrews and Thornton to find out if there's something they can do for you.
Right. And it can't hurt the Indict David Miscavige movement. It can only help.
It can only help, especially since Kimberly DeGonia herself, I believe, used to be a prosecutor in Riverside County. What does it say here? Here we go. For 15 years, Kimberly dedicated her career to serving as a trial prosecutor, fearlessly navigating the complexities of the courtroom with an impressive track record of over 75 cases taken to verdict. Does it say Riverside?
Among the many chapters of Kimberly's storied career, perhaps the most prominent were those spent at the forefront of some of Riverside County's most high-profile child and sexual abuse cases from 2012 to 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Guess what's in Riverside County, folks? Scientology's international management base.
That's right. Yes.
The fact that she was a prosecutor of child crimes and sex abuse cases in Riverside County is unbelievable. Is that a little moth flying around?
Yes, it's a moth.
I'm going to have to kill this guy eventually.
I think it's a different one.
You think it's a different one?
Yeah.
We got moth problems up in here. This is crazy, you guys. This is crazy. Oh, that was my point. I was going to say, a lot of times the legwork and the research and the diligence that is done in civil cases is what paves the way for the prosecutors to step in and not have to reinvent the wheel and be able to use a lot of the evidence and the testimony and the affidavits and the depositions and all of this stuff. You really want to be moving ahead with real attorneys.
Right. Yeah. And protect yourself. You know, there have been past incidences of former Scientology executives coming out and, you know, pretending like they were totally out of Scientology and then being turned back to Scientology. And, you know, many email addresses were turned over, a lot of information that was turned over to them, sources was turned over to Scientology in that time. Many an ex-Scientology executive has been paid off to be silent. And so who knows what happens to, honestly, all of that information you send to anybody who you don't know or who is not an attorney, who isn't required by law to keep it confidential. And I just think that people need to be careful in that regard. And also, honestly, like to just be told, just to send your information to one place, which says David Miscavige is the only person who you would be holding responsible for this, that may not be in your best interest. And that is a tough assumption to make right off the bat.
Yeah.
It could
Who
actually
are any of these people to decide that in any of these complaints, David Miscavige is the only one to blame?
Right, exactly. Especially if you were in Scientology, like, especially if you never saw David Miscavige the entire time you were in Scientology. Like, you could be really limiting your own case by making that assumption. Or if you're sending in your information and they say, oh no, this won't work for us, it doesn't mean it won't work for something else. So your best way of getting justice for yourself, not just somebody else who wants David Miscavige to get justice, for yourself and your own best interest, is to actually talk to an attorney. And even if they can't help you, maybe they can, give you helpful information where you can best learn to help yourself, or they can point you in another direction.
That's right. As I'm thinking of, different things that would rise to the level of, across state lines, federal issues, because it seems clear to me that, when it comes to Scientology, your two big barriers are going to be statutes of limitations and arbitration agreements. Arbitration agreements are not enforceable in cases of child sex abuse. The Biden administration, Joe Biden signed that into law. Arbitration agreements cannot be enforced in cases of child sex abuse. Okay. So instantly I'm thinking of Johnny Maurer. Johnny Maurer was the Scientology staff member in Sacramento. That Scientology, he was a big fundraiser. He was a bookseller. They sent him, I say bookseller, he was a fundraiser. I can't remember if he was the HES or what his post was exact, or if he was in DivSec. He was really good at raising funds for ideal orgs and stuff like that. Scientology sent this guy, he was just a class 5 staff member, sent him around to almost every org in the West US. And Johnny was a young, I guess, decent looking dude. And he eventually got busted in Scientology when it was found out that not only was he sexually abusing minor girls, staff members at the orgs that he went to, but he was found to be molesting kids on a non-Scientologist Little League team that he coached. And what did Scientology do? They said, let's get him out of the jurisdiction. Let's send him to Clearwater, Florida. So they sent Johnny Maurer to Clearwater, Florida, where he lives to this day. They sent him to work for his father, Mike Maurer's company, Teamwork Capital. Ooh, I'm going to get that wrong. Teamwork Commerce. And they secretly declared him. So they didn't even warn all the Scientologists in the community about him. He was declared, but nobody knew it. It was kept limited distribution. He was even allowed as a quote unquote declared suppressive person to work for his dad's company, but he could only talk to his dad during company hours. His dad had to be disconnected from him outside of the office, which is like, who's coming up with these rules?
Yeah, exactly. It's insane.
And so why do I mention Johnny Maurer? If you are a Scientologist or an under the radar Scientologist or an ex-Scientologist, and you were one of Johnny Maurer's child sex victims, you're the victim of someone who, this guy was a sex trafficker. Scientology sent this guy around from state to state to state to state. And then when they verified that he had sexually abused a whole bunch of kids, they sent him to an even further away state. And dare I say, I think you probably would have a case, but I'm not an attorney. You should contact Kimberly DeGonia at Andrews and Thornton.
That's correct. Yeah. And honestly, like where I get concerned about people bringing up this information and sending it to Tom Devocht, it's people who were in the organization at that time, as Matt Pesh mentioned in his video, were responsible for covering up these things at that time. So to go to those same people, in my opinion, is of concern. Even if, they say they've changed, we don't know. I mean, it's not even on the list of things that he thinks are bad that David Miscavige did. This is somebody who was my guardian, who was responsible for me as a child, has still not reached out to me to apologize. It's not even personal. Like, honestly, it's not that I care. It's just of concern to me in the community to see this person becoming a leader in any way whatsoever. So please protect yourself. Don't go to the person who perhaps oversaw this in the past. Go to an actual attorney who, at the very least, will be able to validate your experience, even if you don't have a case.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that, it's like the fact that I feel like you could sum up all of the things we've said about this initiative. And if you want to expand on this, please do. But I feel like you could sum up everything we've said on this by just saying, it would be nice if you could talk about the child trafficking and labor trafficking and sex trafficking that occurred on the base that you were in charge of for 10 years. Would that be okay?
Right.
That sure would inspire confidence. that sure would help a lot of people. That would feel honest. That would feel genuine. And then to be accused of having fallen victim to David Miscavige's Office of Special Affairs programs and propaganda, but to just have it be denigrated as criticism,
Right.
is like, and you want people to come to you?
Right.
You're not even being honest about everything that happened when you were in.
Right. Exactly.
And then no one's even accusing you of anything horrible. We're like, hey, we were there, you were there. We've talked about all this stuff. It'd be nice to hear you, since you were the man in charge of the whole base, talk about it. And then him be like, we're not going to fall for the division. No, there's no fucking division, dude.
Yeah.
Talk about the abuse that occurred on the Flagland base with the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children that were there. We know it wasn't all your idea. We know you didn't issue all the orders. We know if it wasn't you, it would have been some other guy. It's not personal at all.
Right.
But when the feedback is honest and genuine and important, and then it's like, we see you, we know who you are, and we're not going to fall for it. Right. Okay, I guess we're not going to fall for it either then.
Right, exactly. Yes. Yeah, and talking about it is really, honestly, just the bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
Or even like, I'm sure different people feel different, but even like being willing to apologize, or even talk to somebody who was a child at that time when you were in charge and who you're directly responsible for. And if you can't do that, then that's kind of scary. Like that's kind of concerning. And so I guess at this point, I'm not even like, oh, let's talk. It just is what it is. Of course, I'm always willing to talk to Tom, but it is what it is. The actions are there. Like, we can talk about it all we want, but it kind of is what it is at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go through some of these starred comments. Butterfly 7431, a little bit for chalk text. Thank you so much. She's talking about chalk for the protesting. I did finally put together a little wish list for protest supplies. I put a link to it on a community post today. It's the only wish list I will ever create, you guys. You have my word. But I know there's so many people who see what we're doing out there and want to do what they can to help. And honestly, that's
so awesome.
No matter how many chalk supplies you send us, it will never be enough. We will always put it to good use. Elston Gunn, thank you for gifting 5 channel memberships. I love it. Thank you so much. Lavelle Running. It just blows my mind that a science fiction writer was able to pull all of this off. Ren again, you both were raised brainwashed to accept abuse as normal. It's true. And it's hard to admit that.
Yes. Yeah. Now it's easy for me, but it's hard for Aaron to admit it.
I think, what was it? I think I did a video recently where I was like, oh my God, I just finally realized blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I just watched a video of yours from like last year where you realized the same thing. I'm like, sometimes I forget the things that I realized. I have to re-realize it.
I do too, all the time. I forget everything I learned. It's a huge problem. It's such a waste.
Old Frizz says, Jenna being held down by several adults to stop her from calling her parents a child. Yeah. Itchy Thetans, separating kids who cannot consent makes it easier to abuse them. Look at the Nexium case. That predator followed L. Ron Hubbard's model. Many more will. You want to be a religion? You're a mandated report. Yes. Let's talk about the subject of mandated reporters, because there's 2 things that I tend to lump into one, but I forget that they're different, which is everything we've learned about the Child Abuse, Neglect, and Reporting Act, and Andrews and Thornton law firm. I tend to just think of these as one thing. So there was something at the very, very end of that comment that specifically jogs up. Mandated reporters. Yes. The Child Abuse, Neglect, and Reporting Act made clergy members mandated reporters for any child abuse they learn about outside of the confines of an actual confessional. Okay. Now, this is a huge problem for Scientology.
Right.
Because everything that gets disclosed in an auditing session or an honest to God confessional session or whatever always ends up being learned about or heard about by someone else external to that who was not a part of the confessional and
Right.
is a clergy member and is a mandated reporter.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Whether we're talking about the director of processing,
Right.
whether we're talking about, the case supervisor would be arguable, but this is what courts are for.
Mhm.
Whether it's the ethics officer,
Right.
the ethics officer's not a part of the confessional.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
This will be an interesting thing to see how Scientology argues these points.
Right.
But even if it's the ethics reception
right.
person
Yeah.
who sees all the reports, or someone doing an FES summary, or
Right.
all of this stuff.
Right.
There
yeah.
are people who are clergy members, but then you go, how is Scientology going to define clergy member? Is it an ordained minister? Is it an auditor who's also an ordained minister?
Right.
Is a Sea Org member by definition a clergy member? Because Scientology sure wants the courts to believe that they are.
Right. Yeah. And they refer to them as
They're clergy.
members.
The Sea Org
on
is
their website.
Scientology's
Yeah.
clergy.
Yeah.
So any clergy member
Mhm.
who becomes aware
Mhm.
of some child abuse, and that clergy member did not hear about that in a confidential confessional,
Mhm.
mandated reporter, and
Right.
not reporting is a violation of the Child Abuse, Neglect, and Reporting Act. And this is
Right.
going to be Scientology's downfall. And Andrews and Thornton are specialists and experts in this law and the application and prosecutability of this law on the state and the federal level. These guys are the experts.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That mandated reporter part of the comment that made me want to say all that. Okay,
Yeah.
Eunice Swag Pants.
I just wanted to say that there's also two types of confessionals in Scientology.
Mhm.
There's one that is done like in an auditing session, and then there's one that's done for sort of like investigatory reasons. That's what I was always getting pretty much. And that's what often a lot of when these like sex crimes come up, that they're part of an investigatory action.
That's right.
And those when something comes up in one of those types of confessionals, reports are written to the ethics officer, who is like they're not
They're not part of the confessional process. That's
Exactly.
actionable. That's actionable.
Exactly. And not only is it sent to them, but they are required then to meet with the person who confessed and have them do amends and things like that. So they're actually given a program where they have to make good on this. And so those are all opportunities for Scientology to have to report, and then they don't. But also, even more dangerously, they give the appearance of these people, like once they've gotten through they give the appearance to these people that once they've gotten through their program and made amends, that they're good now, they're clean, and they're not. They're still a danger. They still are capable of doing the same thing again.
And that's the other element of sex trafficking.
Right. It's a closed system.
Where you actually you create in a situation that allows the abuse to continue to occur,
Mm-hmm.
and you continue to refuse to let people report it,
Right.
and you continue to benefit monetarily, membership wise, and reputationally.
Yeah. Even keeping people on your labor force.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole other element to this that I just realized,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably realized it before too.
Mm-hmm.
This thing of, if you hear about it outside of a confessional,
Mm-hmm.
they're assuming a person is confessing their own sins.
Mm.
So they're saying, as a priest, if we're in a confession booth or whatever, and you say, I abused this child,
Mm-hmm.
I can't now go and report you to the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting about a Scientology confessional is oftentimes the abuse is coming up the other way. Like you're saying, I was a victim of abuse.
Right. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Technically, that clergy member is a now mandated reporter for the information he just found out about the abuser, who was not a part of the confessional.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I mean, this is what's going to bring Scientology down, guys.
Yes.
That's why we got to get as many people as possible over to Kimberly Dagonia at Andrews and Thornton. She's
Exactly.
one of the country's leading experts in prosecuting religious organizations for violating these reporting laws.
Right.
This is Scientology's Achilles heel.
Yes, exactly. Or even if like somebody like me is being asked questions of a sexual nature on camera, and that video camera and the worksheets of that session are being sent to other executives. Like they're being sent to my Aunt Shelley, my uncle. Those people are mandated reporters.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually witnessing this
right.
child abuse occurring.
That's right.
Even if it's not me saying I was being abused, they're actually witnesses to that occurring.
That's right. I mean, even Mike Rinder's own documents that he sat on for 15 years have information that was never reported to the authorities about James Barber's sex crimes against children. And that's actual evidence of not only Scientology's clergy members finding out about it, but then sending the information up lines about what a great job they did keeping this information out of the hands of the authorities.
Exactly.
This is why this is going to be Scientology's downfall, because it's baked into the DNA of the organization to violate the Child Abuse and Neglect Reporting Act.
Exactly.
Eunice Swagpants. It's one thing to be born and raised in this and think it's normal. I can't imagine how anyone who joined as an adult could think essay of children in the name of policy is okay.
I agree. Yeah. And some people, like, in this, we've mentioned Tom Devocht a lot. He was also raised in Scientology. I don't know if he was born into it. I think he started when he was 14 years old, but
he joined the Sea Org when he was 12.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was before then that he was actually in Scientology.
Yes, it was before then.
But we can just assume that he was.
Yeah.
Like, even at the point when all of these things are going on under his command, it's like, I actually don't expect him to know at that time that it's wrong, or maybe he would have some sort of inkling or whatever, that's fine. But now that 20 plus years have gone by, he's a parent on his own. It's at this point that I think, like, at the very least, looking back, we can talk about that some of these things were wrong and look at what was really going on.
Yeah. To see that list of crimes David Miscavige was guilty of, and none of it had anything to do with child abuse.
Yeah.
Made me wonder, like, is it even possible that he doesn't think those things are important crimes because he had to go through the same shit? Like, is it even possible that that's still where he's at mentally? And it's very hard for me to accept that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the answer, but it's very hard for me to accept that.
Yeah. I mean, it potentially is the answer, but in my opinion, that's dangerous and not okay. And also, part of the thing about this whole Indict David Miscavige movement that is concerning to me is that blaming just one person, but by the way, David Miscavige is guilty as fuck, totally deserves to go to jail and be indicted for all sorts of things. But blaming it all on one person lets people who are currently doing this, who are there in Scientology, off the hook. I was just following orders. It's just the rules of my religion. That's not okay. People need to know that they need to follow the laws of the land, or there are going to be consequences. That's the type of thing that stops people from doing bad things. And so blaming just one person is dangerous. Blaming and not taking any responsibility as an executive who is in charge of overseeing one of the biggest organizations in all of Scientology, if actually the biggest, that's problematic to me. And it leads to this type of thing continuing. And that's why I'm talking about it. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah. And see, Jenna's experience with Tom was different than mine because she worked directly with Tom and I didn't. And so it's easier for me at times, especially when I'm talking about these international Scientology executives, of which later Tom was one. I mean, he was the international landlord.
Yeah.
Right. It's easier for me to disassociate a little bit in terms of what it is I actually expect from them, because I've never, in my mind, held them personally responsible for anything I experienced. There's tons of other people I would hold responsible for that. And so today it occurred to me, though, that, when I was in the Sea Org in Los Angeles, I worked at, ASHO, the American St. Hill organization. And our commanding officer was John Lundeen. And I saw him physically abuse many people, including attempting to abuse myself, but he never quite connected. Literally. And I can tell you, if John Lundeen came out of Scientology and started an Indict David Miscavige initiative, I'd probably be like, oh, hell yeah, this is going to be amazing. And then if he started being like, everything was David Miscavige's fault, I'd be like, I was there for 4 years. I can tell you who I didn't meet. That was David Miscavige. I can tell you who I spent about 12 hours a day with every day for 4 years. And that was your ass.
Right. Exactly.
And if he was like, and if he responded by being like, oh, you're totally right. You're totally right. When I say David Miscavige is responsible, what I mean is X, Y, and Z. But what you're saying is completely true. We're all responsible for the stuff that we did. L. Ron Hubbard created the cult. David Miscavige figured out somehow how to make it even worse. But we all did our own shit, and we all thought we were trying to save the world, and we all justified it a million ways. Let me tell you how I justified it. Let me tell you the shit that I did. And not like, oh, God, please forgive me, I'm terrible. But like, we're having real conversations here.
Right. We're not denying we're not denying other people's experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And if John Lundy was running the initiative, and I was like, hold on a sec, home dog.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think I remember you trying to punch an awful lot of people in the heads and stuff. And he was like, I'm not falling for this David Miscavige Office of Special Affairs program of dividing the community. I'm not going to fall for it. I'd be like, I don't think I'm going to let this go. And so it's, I don't know. On the one hand, I want to say it's not personal, but it is kind of personal.
Right. Yeah. But it's like almost in the mildest way. Like, I feel like if there was even, like, I feel like the effort to like come on and be like, Tom is like, oh, Jenna, call me. Like, it's like performative. He's not reached out to me in like behind the scenes, or I don't know, like even made any effort over the last 20 years to acknowledge anything that went down. And I'm just one person. I named the names of all the other people who were there at that time in one of my videos that I did, all of the other minor children that he was in charge of. And yeah, and I tend to be like, oh, I don't want to make a big deal out of this, and I don't want to be bitchy, I don't want to be bratty, blah blah blah. And the truth is that I'm not being that way. Like, I'm not calling Tom names. I honestly want him to be happy. I wish the best for him. Also, this is not okay, and I'm not going to deny my own experience and make less of myself in order to make him feel better and not point out the things that I see that I consider to be problematic, because this has happened so many times before in my life, and I just really wish that I had said something in the past. And so, that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah. I'm going to beat this dead horse a little bit more. Because, some of the responses that we've received have been along the lines of, I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to be supported. I'm not here to lead anything. And then he puts up a fundraiser trying to raise $100,000. And it's like, looks like somebody does need a little bit of support from the community. I can think of, 5 or 6 people in this community who, if they really wanted to, could give Tom Devocht $100,000 right now. Mm-hmm. So clearly that's not happening. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, the guy who is not here to be liked, is not here to collaborate, is not here to do anything but march to the beat of his own drum, would like the community to give him $100,000 with no specifics whatsoever other than generalities, meaning like he gives specifics, but the specifics are generalities.
Right.
Generalities that don't even make any sense.
Right.
But please give me $100. You can trust me. $100,000. You can trust me. And it's like, oh, so you do need the support of the community. Right. Funny how that changed. Because a little bit ago, you didn't give a shit about being supported by anybody but your secret crew of insiders. Like, what's going on here? Right.
Yeah. And there's like this faux humility of like, I'm just the ugly mug who's on the face of this movement, and I'm not like, I don't really need support or what. And it's like, no, you really are trying to start a movement. Let's be honest about it. You really are asking for support. Let's be open and direct. And I don't know, there's all these like mixed messages of, I do want your support, but I don't really need your support if you don't want to give me your support. And I want you to like me, and I don't want you to like me. And it's like, okay, why don't we just be upfront here about what's happening?
Yeah. It's weird, guys.
Yeah.
It's weird. And we can talk all day about how weird it is, or we can say, if you have information that's actually actionable against David Miscavige and Scientology, contact an actual attorney who actually litigates and prosecutes these things. Her name is Kimberly Dagonia. She works at Andrews Thornton. And guess what? They work on contingency. They will not ask you for $100,000. They will on the back end, but that's different.
You'll have it then.
You'll have it then. You'll have it to share. Okay, Arkansas Flamingo. It constantly amazes me
Yeah.
that you both are so kind and compassionate. Oh, that's me, kind and compassionate.
Thank you, Janet.
I play kind and compassionate on TV. No, that's okay. How you managed to come out of that cult with such a moral compass boggles my mind. I admire you both so much. I don't have a moral compass. Do you?
I do.
You do. Okay. She's got enough for both of us. Old Frizz,
Yes, I do.
don't think the old execs would have a problem confirming policy. Yes. Oh, that's right. So this is back to the strategy of having defendants who are both current Scientologists and current Scientology executives and former Scientology executives.
Right.
What a moral conundrum that would be. Now, to me, it's not a moral conundrum. It's actually a brilliant strategy. But do you think any former Scientology executives in that position would they fall for the trap of having to justify how it all wasn't really that bad and it all didn't really happen? Or would they be like, no, this is my opportunity to...
Well, that's what I think would be interesting to find out,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like, because the truth is that if, I'm not saying this is the case, if I had a case for child abuse, if it's within the statutes of limitations, like, the truth is that I could sue David Miscavige and I could sue Tom Devocht. That's the honest to God truth of it. And without even being given an apology or a dialogue, it's like, at what point, like what's the difference at this point to me? You know, that's just me being honest. So yeah, it would be interesting to see where his mind really stands on this. And if it came down to it in a court of law, if he would just be defending himself in the same way that David Miscavige would, or if there would be actual change that these ex-leaders purport to have had when they leave Scientology and speak out about it, or if the change is just surrounding how they themselves were treated.
Yeah. Marilyn says the ex-executives could be called as witnesses, even if they are not named in the suit, I think. So they could be, but then obviously that's something Scientology could then try to challenge. They could challenge whether that person's affidavit should be accepted. They would then attack. This is what they like. Even there's many lawsuits that even Mike Rinder's affidavits were rejected in because Scientology effectively argued that he was too biased for the court to take seriously. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you try to call these executives as witnesses, Scientology's going to debunk them, 20 ways to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're co-defendants, that's a little, I don't know if that's like uncharted territory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Eunice Swag Pants says, it makes me wonder how loose-lipped the former executives would continue to be when there was legal jeopardy involved. Yes. By the way, in one of Tom Devocht's blog posts, he revealed a number I had not heard before. He said that Debbie Cook was paid $6 million by Scientology to shut up and go away and stop talking.
Mm.
That's much more than I thought.
For some reason, I had heard that number before.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I'm disappointed. Someone like Debbie Cook could have easily made $6 million throughout the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's easy for me to say. But that's why I'm saying it.
Right. Yeah. But another interesting perspective on that, like, so Scientology paid off Debbie Cook, so she cannot like participate in a civil lawsuit as a witness, but she can as a defendant.
That's right. She can't say Scientology paid me $6 million, so you're not allowed to sue me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Marilyn says, there has been quite a few instances of well-meaning people in the community requesting and collecting evidence. Thank you for sending victims to a law firm directly. That's right. There have been a number of instances that all turned out badly when someone decides to be a clearinghouse for allegedly actionable information. Constance June, contact these lawyers or the authorities if you think you have evidence. Do not send evidence to a third-party email or website. Extra hands can taint evidence.
Right.
Mel Elho? Is that how you would say that? Mel Elho?
Mel Eljo?
Mel Eljo? I look at it this way. It doesn't hurt to run it past the attorneys just to see if something can stick. There is no downside to report it to the attorneys. It's true. Stephen Mark Katzman, is the law firm working on a class action? Okay, that's a good question. And I think I have The best answer I can give you is this. In her interview, in Kimberly DeGonia's interview on the Mormon Stories podcast, she explained that technically it's not a class action. It's a mass tort. Like every individual is their own separate lawsuit, but they have a way of combining them that is not, strictly speaking, a class action lawsuit, where like all 30 defendants do not all have to depose the international justice chief separately. The one deposition can be shared by all defendants. Certain discovery can be shared. She explained it in a way where I believe the answer to you is no, it's not a class action, but because it doesn't need to be, and it's best in this case for it not to be. That's my understanding. Take that for what you paid for it.
Maybe we could put the link to that podcast episode in the description of the video.
Yep. Good idea. Lorne T. Also, talking to an attorney is confidential. Talking to a non-attorney has no confidentiality. That's right. No one. David liked to put layers of people between him and the staff being layers. I'm sorry. David liked to put layers of people between him and the staff being punished. Lavelle Ronning. I know it's possible to take on a church and win. It's been done before with the Catholic Church. Why is the world ignoring Scientology? I just can't understand it. Well, Lavelle, the good news is Andrews and Thornton is not ignoring Scientology, and they are prepared to take Scientology on just as they did. They're currently litigating at least 30 cases right now against the Mormon Church. They were involved, I don't think in the prosecution of the Boy Scouts, but in the restructuring that occurred to put into place systems that would protect children.
Oh, I see.
And I can't remember if they were involved in litigation against the Catholic Church, but I cannot stress this enough. The Mormon Church has lost more money in its couch cushions than Scientology has ever had. Okay. So they also have 100 times the membership. They have 100 times the power, state level, federal level, and any law firm and attorneys who can successfully go against the Mormon Church are more than prepared to go after Scientology. And that's why I'm so excited about this firm and who they have over there and what their experience is and what is to come. Itchy Thayin says, it is personal. Jenna was a child and Tom was her guardian. That means something. That's not nothing. Your story matters, Jenna. Your experience matters, Jenna. It's not nothing. Lady Victoria, question. Do you pick if you care if we pick other colors than just the blue? You're talking about the holly powder. I think the other colors are also amazing. So any color will do. Thank you so much. Sinner J, I have a question. Why doesn't David Miscavige just pretend that he found OT 9 and 10? Like, couldn't he get someone to write it and claim it's L. Ron Hubbard? I actually love answering this question. Do you have a few minutes to listen to my answer?
Sure.
Okay. So L. Ron Hubbard painted David Miscavige into a corner by the way he defined the pre-OT levels and the first real OT level, which he said was OT 8, and the way he defined the difference between all the OT levels 1 through 7 and OT level 8. So in the things L. Ron Hubbard wrote about this, where he could not betray the confidentiality of the upper levels, he said OT 1 through 7 are actually pre-OT levels. And he said OT 8 is the first real OT level. And he said, here's why. He said OT 1 through 7 give a person negative gain. You are experiencing personal gain by getting rid of things. That's what he called negative gain. You're eliminating things in order to make yourself a brighter, shinier, more aware, capable version of yourself. But it's by getting rid of things. Exfoliating, spiritual exfoliation. Now, what he meant, and no one knows what he's talking about unless you've done the OT levels, is getting rid of body thetans. You're telepathically speaking to these beings that are stuck to you that got blown up in the volcano by Xenu 75 million years ago. And OT 1 through 7, well, all the way up to OT 7, involves telepathically talking to these beings and trying to make them better so that they will leave your body and go pick up a body of their own. Okay. OT 8, he says, is the first OT level where you're getting positive gain. Now, even that's ridiculous because all you're doing on OT 8 is going through all of the past life memories that you've come up with in your auditing sessions up until that point and you're finding out, you're determining for yourself whether those past life memories belong to you as a being or they belong to one of the many body thetans that were stuck to you. And what you end up finding out is that most of your past life memories belonged to your body thetans, and they're not your memories. Imagine spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars doing past life counseling, getting rid of your past life trauma. And then you spend more hundreds of thousands of dollars getting rid of these beings that are stuck to you, that have their own past life trauma that they're taking out on you. And then the final level is, by the way, all those memories that are now core to who you think you even are as a being, those weren't your memories, bro. Those were your body thetans' memories. Okay. So because L. Ron Hubbard said that OT8 was the first real OT level, and it's the first OT level where you're not getting rid of body thetans, OT 9 and 10 cannot have anything to do with getting rid of body thetans.
So basically, are you saying that David Miscavige has to come up with a way to give people superpowers?
Without getting rid of body thetans. And it has to be something so freaking magical and powerful and mind-blowing that the people who've been waiting for it for 40 years are going to go, that was worth it. Good luck. That's impossible. Now, the truth is, on some level, because it's a cult, because of the mind control and the thought control, whatever the hell, no matter what he comes out with, a certain percentage of the people will say, that was the greatest thing that I've ever experienced on the whole track, and everyone needs to do it, and I just signed all of my children up for the Sea Org. Mm-hmm. You can bullshit some of the people all of the time.
Right, yeah.
But as of right now, David Miscavige, who probably doesn't have more than 15 years to live, just even on a normal time scale, much less superhuman time scales, much less the abbreviated time scale of a cult leader, why would Miscavige risk releasing OT 9 and 10 and disappointing 75% of the flock and having everything fall apart than just to spend the last 10 or 15 years of his life continuing to lie to everybody and blame them for the fact that OT 9 and 10 is not ready for release because the organizations aren't big enough yet.
Right.
That's my answer.
That makes sense.
That's the best I can do, folks. I mean, the longer Miscavige has waited to release it, the bigger of a problem it is. But honestly, what am I talking about? They don't exist. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They don't exist. But I guess what I'm saying, if he was going to make it up himself, the longer he waits, the worse it is.
Yeah.
He's already waited too long.
Yeah, it's true. It'd have to be something amazing.
I don't think Scientology will ever, ever, ever come up with some fake OT 9 and 10 and release it. That's my prediction.
And they go all the way up to OT 15.
They're supposed to go up to OT 15.
Yeah.
In fact, so this is what I recall. Tell me this is what you recall. We were told OT 9 and 10 can only be released when all orgs reach the size of Old St. Hill.
Right.
But after that, there's no prerequs for the release of the subsequent levels other than enough people ready to receive it.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
That's what we were told.
Oh, okay. I knew this.
I did pay more attention to all this stuff than Jenna did, though, because I was a nerd and she was a troublemaker. No, what is it? You were, what is it? The pinks? What is it? The plastics?
The plastics?
Are you the plastics? I was a nerd. Jenna was the plastic. Okay. Is this the one we just did? That's the one we just did. Okay. Abraham. I saw Abraham in the chat at the protest.
Yeah, he texted me. Yeah.
Are
Hi,
chalk
Abraham.
bombs legal? As long as they don't have any actual explosive in them, then yes. Dave Wheelhauer. My grandpa served with Lafayette. He was a clown in the Navy. He was a clown out and the fact that
the Navy.
Oh, he was a clown in the Navy. He was a clown out. And the fact that people believed his BS and subjected children to it is disgusting. Dave, Scientology every now and then will scour around and find someone like your grandfather who served with LRH in the Navy, and they will do a sit-down video interview with them, somehow getting them to tell the most amazing stories about what an amazing man L. Ron Hubbard was in the Navy. And I've always wondered, one, how they found these people. Two,
how much did they pay them?
What they offered, how much they paid them. What did they offer these people to tell these stories, these mythical stories of L. Ron Hubbard? But I'm more interested in your grandpa's story. Is he still alive? If your grandpa is still alive, and he wants to do a chat with me about his experience with L. Ron Hubbard in the Navy, please shoot me an email at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. Okay. Northern Girl, off topic. Did you say the other day that the police finally told Scientology that they cannot throw water at you? Did the police finally show up after you stopped streaming? No, the police never said it was wrong for Scientology to throw water at us. He sort of gave me a no answer. Like, okay, we'll get that. We'll get that addressed. Well, that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And then no, the police absolutely never showed up.
Right.
At
they
all.
said when I called, he was like, okay, all right, I understand. I'll send out a sergeant. And then
Nothing.
they never showed up.
Nothing. Linda Lou, I don't count auditing as a confessional as they are recorded.
Interesting point.
I wonder what the law would say about that.
Yeah. It is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, also, to be honest, the recording is illegal too, unless you're agreeing to it.
I think you agree to it in your services release, general release contract.
But I don't think I have that.
Oh, that's totally possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lavelle Ronning, they literally record everything. Shouldn't that be discoverable by law? So technically it is. And here's what I mean when I say that. In Laura DiCrescenzo Diekman lawsuit. Her lawsuit against Scientology was for being pressured to have an abortion when she was still a child in the Sea Org.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And she said, all the evidence of everything I am saying is in my auditing folders, the PC folders. And Scientology, and so those were subpoenaed. It's a civil lawsuit. And Scientology said, what? Here, hand me those pearls. Scientology said, my pearls! That's confidential, good sir. Thank you for that. Thank you. Scientology said, we cannot turn over your auditing folders. Those are protected. Priest, penitent, confidential, privileged, protected. And then the lawyers were like, yeah, dumbasses. They're privileged for her, not for you. She's the one who has the protection, not you. They're protected for her benefit, not yours. And Scientology was like, uh-oh. And they appealed. So they were ordered to turn over the files. They appealed it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court said, no, thank you. We're not going to listen to this. And Scientology had to turn over to Laura an exact copy of all of her auditing files. Now you might go, come on, they would have destroyed all the evidence. Nope. They sure as hell did not, because that's even worse. That's even worse. And the way an auditing folder is structured, it's completely chronological. In the inside front cover of the folder is not only a summary of every worksheet that's in that folder, there's a summary of the summary. Everything is timestamped, cataloged, cross-referenced, everything. You cannot selectively destroy evidence in a PC folder without it being very obvious.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, well, wouldn't they have just lost all of her folders in a mysterious fire? You'd think so, but no, they did not roll the dice on that either. They turned over everything. So I guess my point here is this. If they had to turn over the auditing folders, theoretically, they would also have to turn over any recordings that existed of those auditing sessions, except Scientology would probably just claim they don't have those.
Right.
Like, good luck proving that, right?
Right.
But theoretically, though, they would be, if you can get the auditing files, you can get the auditing videos, theoretically.
Right. Well, I don't think it would be hard to prove that it was recorded, even if you don't have the recording. I mean, they have recording devices in all of their auditing rooms, and so many people could testify to this. That's
right. And in the new buildings, those recording systems automatically kick in as soon as you flip the sign to in session.
Right.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know.
It's
that.
literally in
Wow.
session, automatically recording. It's not possible to forget to record.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And recording right to computer hard drive. No tapes, no nothing.
Wow. Yeah. And even in some of my sessions, I was like, I want you to turn off the recording. And that's got to be in the worksheets at least, you know? And like, even like, they would be like, okay, I put a blanket over. I was like, not good enough. Turn it off. And so there's some like other written evidence of this.
Let's see. D. Marie. I can think that adult predators would be drawn to Scientology because of this practice. It's hard to deny that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to deny that.
Yeah.
Like earlier on, maybe I'd argue that, well, you wouldn't even really understand that these things exist in Scientology until you're like in it. So that maybe and because of that, perhaps it doesn't actually attract predators.
Mm-hmm.
But now, given all the freaking exposure
Yeah.
that Scientology has received on these policies, like it wouldn't even surprise me if it did start to actually attract predators.
Yeah, totally.
In a way that is even different than maybe earlier times.
Yeah, or even predators who think that they can get themselves cleaned up there and reform without having to go to jail.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Linda says teachers have to report abuse too. Were there actual teachers in Scientology?
the only teachers I ever had were Sea Org members. So we didn't have grades. Kids of all ages were studied in the same room together, and we weren't taught anything verbally from the teacher. We had our own little checklists that we followed. And so, like, I don't even think that they had to have a teaching degree or whatever you have.
So you're talking about like when you were in the cadet org and they're doing the reading, writing, or arithmetic type?
Yeah.
You're not even talking about Scientology courses. You're talking about like...
I'm talking about like, yeah, when I was in the cadet org and we did schooling. But then even from when I was 12 till I was 16, I was here in Clearwater and we went to school 1 day a week.
I always wondered about this.
Yeah, at the QI, it was a Quality Inn.
They still did it course room style?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They did?
The only schooling I've ever had was done course room style.
Did you ever have to do any schooling when you were in LA? Or were you already older?
When I went back when I was 16, they refused. So there were kids who did schooling there 1 day a week, and I was not allowed to by Tracy Danilovich. She's like, no, you're done with that. You can't go. So
like locally here, where would you guys do your schooling at the cadet org?
Yeah, at the QI. We would take a bus there every week.
Oh, so they didn't like send you to the local Delphi or something?
No.
Huh.
We'd go to the QI. And in our schooling, like how it was run like a course room, like you said, there was also meter checks and there was pink sheets.
So the answer is no, they're not real teachers.
Yeah, sorry.
So, I mean, but not only are they not educated and certified as teachers, they're not even considered teachers by Scientologies. Like Scientology courses aren't taught by a teacher. It's a self-study course, and there's a course supervisor who usually hasn't even done the course that you're studying. And their job is just to sort of make sure you don't go by words you don't understand.
Right. Yeah. Now, there was one girl at the ranch who I believe may have been a teacher previously, but it's irrelevant. Like in Scientology, even like on like academic studies, a teacher is forbidden to explain anything to you verbally.
Right.
Like they can't, like you can't say, I need help. Can you help me with this? They will just say, what word in this do you not understand?
Right. And I guess it also depends on what the question means by like, is someone a real teacher? Like, does that mean you have a degree? Because for sure the answer for most, children in the cadet org that were learning to read and write and stuff, no, it was not done by, like when you said there was a woman at the cadet org who may have previously been a teacher, was she the course supervisor or was she just someone who worked at the cadet org?
In that case, she was a course supervisor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But then there was also like, she wasn't the only one. There were multiple course supervisors. Different adults would be the course supervisor. Like there was 2 course rooms. Right. And so there was one here, one there. So that was only one of them. Interesting.
Northern Girl, would you ever be able to testify as an expert about Scientology practices in court on these cases? I think any ex-Scientologist theoretically could testify. It depends on whether they can get past the challenges that Scientology would make to them actually being an expert, and whether the judge would rule in favor or against as an expert witness. That's kind of how it works. So you present your credentials as a Scientology expert. Mm-hmm. Scientology says you were never anything other than a toilet scrubber or a coffee fetcher. Mm-hmm. And then the judge determines whether to allow you to be an expert witness or not. That's pretty much how that works. The truth is, any former Scientologist should be able to qualify as an expert witness. But even Claire Headley, who had been the internal exec RTC, had worked directly for David Miscavige for Lord knows how many years, spent the majority of her time in the Sea Org working at the international base. They tried to say that she really had no experience, no knowledge, no credentials, no certificates, no nothing. So and it's what they say about what they said about Mike Rinder too. There's no way for Scientology to admit that you are an expert.
Right.
But the truth is, all ex-Scientologists are experts.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess, depending on the court does sort of want you to have at least kind of the training that at least would make a Scientologist consider you an expert.
Right. But Claire Headley would have had that.
For sure.
Yeah. She's a trained auditor.
For sure.
And
the truth is, even David Miscavige has not done the full panoply of training in Scientology.
Right. Well, not lately. Yeah. He was like an
Right.
auditor as a kid, but yeah.
No, I even meant I don't know if you know this. He actually was deposed once before and he had to admit that he'd never finished the OEC course.
Oh, okay.
In his deposition after he was already COBRTC.
Oh, okay.
He actually had to admit he had not read all the Scientology policies officially.
Yeah.
Whereas many Scientology executives have done that training. David Miscavige had to admit he had not.
Yeah.
Okay. Arkansas Flamingo. As a lay minister in my church, I was a mandated reporter. Wow. I turned in someone for being in a closed room with a child. Just for being in a closed room with a child. Imagine. Jesus, the stuff we think is normal.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. Tommy Tone, Toontown. This is the same thing that took down the FLDS cult leader in British Columbia, Canada. It will eventually take down Scientology leaders as well. Yeah. Fish Mom 2011. I think if former executives are named in the lawsuits, they might be willing to cooperate with the lawyers to lighten their liability in a criminal case, turn state's evidence. Yes. Mel L. Joe. I have to know the right way to pronounce this name. Mel L. Joe, if you're in the live chat, can you write your name out phonetically and we'll try to catch it? Because I'm never going to be able to let this go. A facade is being displayed toward Jenna from Tom. If he really wants to get shit done, he could bury Scientology himself, but doesn't want to go down with them. D. Marie, I love when Jenna gets fiery with the truth without even having to raise her voice. No one. I was a minor put in charge of some children. I think this person also made a reference about the int base earlier, right?
I remember seeing Arya Stark earlier, the Avatar.
Yes. No, we definitely read a comment from no one before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Skyfire, the horse is still alive. Keep beating it. Kelly Artology, good to see you. I know it's hard, Jenna, but please don't be intimidated for standing up for yourself. And you are doing the right thing and it counts. Yes.
Thank you.
Tommy Tone, Toontown. For those that are not aware, there is no statute of limitations on sex crimes in Canada. You never hear about Scientology being sued or prosecuted in Canada.
It's true.
But, it seems like there's plenty of material. Honeycrisp. We had instances of SA and physical beatings when I was on staff a few years ago. Not sure how to report without Scientology knowing who made the reports. Under the radar currently. Wow. That is a problem. There's no way around that problem. Although I take it back, Honeycrisp, you can speak to the lawyers at Andrews Thornton. Tell you what, it's a hell of a lot safer to email or speak with the lawyers at Andrews Thornton than it is to speak with me or Tom Devocht. I mean, just theoretically, I would never dissuade someone from contacting me, but I'm just saying, theoretically, it's a hell of a lot more safer to communicate with an attorney where you have actual privilege than with a non-attorney with whom you don't. But yeah. I mean, guys, anyone in Scientology, any staff member who's been an outer org trainee, whether you were a trainee in Los Angeles or Clearwater, or you came over from Europe or South America or South Africa or whatever, this is where instances of abuse that if they were just a local issue might be just a local issue. But when you've got abuse combined with being transported across state lines and country to country, you now have a much different, bigger problem. And that's very bad for Scientology. So please contact Andrews and Thornton. One more time, this is Kimberly DeGonia. Andrews and Thornton is the name of the law firm. The website is andrewsthornton.com, and you can't miss it. They have a contact us form, and these ladies, these women. It's not all women, but Ann and Kimberly do a lot of the interviews. But this firm, I am telling you, I believe this firm is going to be the downfall of Scientology. Okay. Is this the same one or a different one? Oh, that's the same. Same one. Abraham Orich. If Debbie is smart, she would be in a country that has no extradition. See, I see it differently. Oh. You think so?
Yeah.
Remember they told her, they're like, take this money and you've got to go move to the Bahamas. But then she moved back to the US.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. She might have left the US again, but
okay, I don't know.
And it's not like Scientology doesn't know that she's back.
I see. Anything I know.
I think it also got to the
100 years
point,
ago.
like I'm speaking for Debbie. I have no place to speak for Debbie, but I think it got to the point where she's like, what are you going to do to me? Like, okay, I moved out of the country. I did what you wanted me to.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm coming back.
Yeah, totally.
What are you going to do?
I know that kind of happened with my parents when they left. They were like, had to move to Mexico, but then they just moved back.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I see it differently, right? Because here's the thing. We're talking about what an interesting strategy it might be to add ex-Scientology executives as defendants in lawsuits. I maintain my position. There is no prosecutor out there that's trying to throw ex-Scientologists in jail.
Right. And you can also choose who you request damages from.
Can you? Mm-hmm. There you go. So so I see this differently, right? If Debbie was smart, she'd be figuring out how to cooperate in as many lawsuits as possible. Mm-hmm. She'd be figuring out how to use her knowledge and her expertise to help indict David Miscavige, to help lawsuits against David Miscavige. She'd be figuring out how to make it happen despite anything she might have signed, if she were smart. Trisha Kelly, Jenna, were you taught phonics?
Yeah, I was.
Like hooked on phonics?
Well, I think just phonics is like learning the phonetic ways of saying, like, so I learned like the ABCs and how to read, but I learned all that before I was 5.
Does this question mean something other than were you taught to read?
I think she might be saying this because it's like, obviously you can't teach yourself to read on a check sheet. Like, you know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah. At that point, you actually have to be taught to read. So yeah, before I was 6 years old, before I went to the ranch, we were in actually we were taught the ABCs and flashcards and like very basic math. Like I actually did read and write like really quite early.
Were you aware enough of the real world at that young age to remember the hooked on phonics worked for me?
No, because I don't think I had that. We just had whatever.
So you didn't get my hooked on phonics joke then?
No. I don't get a lot of people's jokes.
You just nodded along like it was a great joke.
People always make references to old TV shows and shout out random things to each other. Like it seems like they have like issues, and I just am used to it.
There was some program.
And if I ask, they always say something even more confusing. So
there was some program called Hooked on Phonics, and it was some program.
Do you mean TV or a video or what?
Here's why I don't know. It's just one of these things they ran infomercials for all the time. Okay. Hooked on phonics worked for me. I couldn't read good. Now hooked on I never actually knew what it was, no. But it was called Hooked on Phonics.
Oh, okay.
And it was how to teach people to read, especially like adults who were illiterate.
Yeah.
And so this question, were you taught phonics?
Yeah.
To me, did you do Hooked on Phonics? Because
I see.
Otherwise, I don't know what the hell that means.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You did it too. You just don't remember.
I mean, I feel like the question could just be, were you taught to read? That's why I'm wondering if it means something special.
Oh.
That's okay. We both don't know. Okay. Natelyn. What is Scientology's opinions of Dungeons and Dragons?
I remember it was bad.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
And now that I know what it is.
Evil.
Yeah.
But I don't know why.
No, because it's so lame and dorky.
It's not like Scientologists are like, oh no, black magic and wizards, stay away. They don't care about that.
Maybe they think of it as other practices or something.
I think it is kind of other practices, but it's just storytelling.
Well, and it's like improv kind of. Like my son was into it for a while, and I was like, oh God, please don't make me be a part of this.
Do you remember Kim Laws?
Yeah.
She was a dungeon master.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
It's my fault for being boring that I don't like it. I just could not.
Yeah, I might have been a nerd, but I wasn't that much of a nerd, if you know what I'm saying.
It's normal. Lots of people do it.
I played sports, okay? I can only be so nerdy.
I didn't play sports.
You can't play sports and Dungeons and Dragons. You got to pick a lane. Ty Mark, love what you guys are doing. I've been watching Aaron for years, loving the videos Jenna is doing. Jenna, speak your truth, girl.
Thank
Okay, I should. We got a few more comments here to go, but since this is Jenna Miscavige's channel, and you can find her on YouTube at Jenna Miscavige. There you go. And Ken's channel. So good to see you, Ken. More lawsuits against Scientology, less lawyers to fight them. It's been a good month. Yes, that's right. They lost 2 of their top lawyers. Jump ship. It says, by the way, it's Meleljo. Yes. Or is it Meleljoey? No, Meleljo.
But what's the E at the end?
That it's saying say it as if it were Joe.
Oh, okay.
Meleljo. All right, I love it. Rib Guy. Do we know who is streaming the morning's main event? Oh, I forgot. I was going to text Eric Levi and see if he was going to be there.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yes. It's got to be someone who does not think that once you're found guilty of a crime, you now have to pay the remaining 90% of your bail bond. If that's what you think, I cannot interview you about tomorrow's court proceedings. That's an inside joke that Jenna does not get, but that's okay. Do you get it?
I get it now. Yeah, I remember you said something about it yesterday.
Yes.
I was trying to remember who.
Yes, if you are covering Scott Hochstetter's bail revocation hearing tomorrow, and you think that when you're found guilty of a crime, you now have to pay the remaining 90% of your bail bond, you're not eligible to be my correspondent.
I'm not eligible.
Okay, hold on. I see. I was on it. Okay, anyway, how long have we been going? An hour 35?
Oh my God, 666.
666.
Okay,
Oh, it's
good.
10
Okay,
o'clock. We got to get out of here. We haven't barely left the house today. We got to go. All right, guys, that is it. Thank you so much. One more time, I'll show your channel. Subscribe to Jenna Miscavige at Jenna Miscavige. She's Jenna Miscavige. She's over there, Jenna Miscavige. Okay, guys, thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
See ya.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe